So a couple things. I noticed some consistency, maybe redundancy in what we're talking about, but I wrote a few words down that several people have mentioned. Obviously, cloud being one, given where we are. But you keep hearing about hybrid, and I want to talk more about what we mean by hybrid. I heard a lot about open from multiple presenters. Business, it's all about the business, not about the technology, which I agree with. Agility and the speed to change, to get deployments going faster, to fail faster, to fix it fast. I heard infrastructure a few times, which I was pleasantly surprised to hear people mention infrastructure, given that's what I do for a living. And APIs. I heard a lot about APIs and the API economy that we're all living in today. As Jim mentioned, I have the privilege of running the systems group, which is all about our hardware and also all about our infrastructure middleware, the stuff that glues a lot of this stuff together. And so what I'd like to take you through, and I'll be joined by a client soon, is about these technologies and how these technologies are helping shape and guide our deployments in a hybrid world. Yes, we've been doing private clouds better and better for many years. And yes, as we see this journey into the public cloud and into the speed of deployment that we get, we see not a lot of greenfield people saying, I'm just going to start fresh, I'm going to throw everything out, or I'm just a new startup. Startups may run that way, but most of us have existing infrastructures that we've got to run. And rather than fence it off, people want to use it. People want to utilize that. So what do we need? Mobile, to me, changes everything in our work, whether it's banking, whether it's retail, whether it's insurance, whatever business you're in, mobile is changing everything for us. And it's not a day goes by we don't see some security breach. So encryption matters on an increased basis. Analytics, going from data to actionable insights is really important. New workloads with speed, leveraging open. Everything we do is about open. And deploying hybrid models. Now, hybrid can mean different things. It can mean connecting systems of engagement with systems of record. It certainly means that to me. But it also can mean having the ability to burst out when I need capability somewhere else for certain workloads that are not typically data intensive, where I can actually split it across different locations, because we haven't changed the laws of physics or the latency requirements that people have. But let me just talk about the expectations that people have. And this really matters differently in different parts of the world. An example, I was talking to a bank in New York a month ago, asked them how many of their transactions originate from a mobile device. Answer was less than 10%. Bank in Brazil, asked them how many of their transactions originate from a mobile device. Answer, greater than 50%. So parts of the world are really going mobile. And as they do this, they're going to their systems of record. They're having a wonderful experience on their app, but they're going to connect it to something. And those are the expectations that people have. If you look at retail examples, pharmacy examples of people saying, I want to be able to use my whatever pharmacy you use application, yes, that's a wonderful immersive experience for you, but it's going to land somewhere where there's customer-sensitive data that's regulated, that's got to be in a very secure environment, and it exists today. So I've got to leverage the data that I have today. There's other examples of retailers who are going to other parts of the world where they may not have a data center, and they want to have the ability to run that in software. And they want the technology to be shared across those different environments. So lots of capabilities here, lots of expectations. We talk about managing expectations. These are hard to manage because these are client expectations, your clients, my clients. Their expectations of what's available, what's always on, and it's also generational. The expectations for my son, who's going to be 20 this year, are far different than when I was 20. They are just way dependent on mobile technology and just assume it's going to be there. Now, hybrid cloud for me is partly about two speeds of IT, and some of the analysts talk about this. Yes, we want to be agile everywhere. My teams are agile in parts. I'm working on that every day to make them quicker, to get them to go and look at the requirements, get your input on something before it's fully baked. Get that iteration going. But we still do have the two speeds that say, I'm willing on my phone, as many of you are, to say update all every day. Most people for their infrastructure in the system of record are not willing to say update all every day. Most people are still going through a vetting process to say, are those fixes I need? What's that going to do to my environment? Do I have the right configurations? I don't even look at the applications that are going to be updated. I don't look what they happen to have changed, whether I need it or not. I just say, update all. Will we ever get to an environment where systems of record, we can do that? Maybe, but I'm not sure I'll still be working for IBM at that point. So it may take us a while to get there. So we still have to leverage this technology, but do it at slightly different speeds. And the examples I'll give you for my hybrid environment is I've got my mobile application. A lot of us are using those today, and we're using them on a system of engagement. Our expectation is a wonderfully immersive experience, but we're still going to get to a back-end system of record where the data lives today, at least today. Maybe one day it won't, but today it's living on that system of record that's typically on-prem, or it could be somebody else's, where I've got to connect multiple public interfaces out there. So let me give you an example from something we've done, and this is based on our Apple partnership. We've talked about our Twitter partnership, Weather Channel partnership. Let me talk about the Apple partnership and why it matters to me. We did this wonderful Passenger Plus application. Some of you may have seen it demoed. This is what happens to us when we're traveling and we get delayed. And we're in the air, and the first thing you're trying to figure out is, am I going to make my connection? And what we typically do is you land on the ground, and you get on your phone, you get on a line, or both. I've done both. And you're trying to figure out, can I make a new connection? Very stressful. The whole time I'm in the air, I'm worried about it. We developed with Apple an application for the iPad that allows a flight attendant to be able to rebook you in flight. Now, the first time we did it, Truth in Lending, it was a 40-step application. Apple said, no, 3. It's a 3-step application now. Learning for us. We're good at enterprise. They're really good at consumer. It's a good marriage for us. And what we were able to do is access different systems of record. Reservation system, flight ops, customer profile. I want to know whether you're platinum or gold or silver or medallion or whatever it might be. I want to know that before I rebook. So this application not only is a mobile application, it changes the way we work. It changes the workflow on the back end. It changes the rules or it uses the rules on the back end system. It's using a set of APIs into these different systems of record. This is a perfect hybrid example, giving people a better experience and making that airline very popular among the folks. You hate to be delayed, but at least I know when I land, I'm going to get a text, or in the air, if I'm connected, I can verify, yes, I'm going to make that flight. I know what gate it's at. I'm ready to go. So a wonderfully better experience than the one you might have had you landed and gone through the anxiety. Now, this is my portfolio, and each of these points, I would argue, matter in a cloud context. They matter in a hybrid environment. The middleware that I have the privilege of managing is all about APIs. It's all about the lifecycle management of development. It's all about integration, WebSphere. It's all about integration broker, MQ. All of these pieces of middleware that help us glue together different systems. And in this context, it's gluing together a system of engagement and a system of record. In my example from the Apple example, it was workflow. It was rules. These are all parts of the infrastructure that you're, I would argue, going to want to expose to this hybrid world, to take advantage of the stuff you already have, so that you don't have to rewrite it. The early days of internet banking was all about rewriting. Early days of online retail was about having 2 different systems. Didn't work. Inventories got all messed up. You can't have that. Z system, we just came out with a new mainframe this year. It's relevant in a lot of these configurations, not to say we're going to host public clouds on it, but these transactions land somewhere. When I use my financial services, and I won't say who, when I use that application and I hit refresh on my iPad, it goes out and issues like 40 queries. It logs onto all my financial services sites, and it queries every one of those balances. That drives transactions or queries on systems. So please hit that like 100 times a day, because it's landing somewhere. I don't do that because I don't have time, but all that is generating traffic. It's generating work, and the expectation is I can do it whenever, wherever, however, how often I want to. So these systems land. Power systems, Angel talked about it. We've embraced it with open power, and with Jim's help, we're working to get, and Robert's help, we're working to get power, open power, into SoftLayer. In fact, through open power and one of our members, we're actually not manufacturing that equipment. It's coming from Taiwan. It's coming from one of the open power members. It will be IBM logoed, but it will be built by Taiwan to be right to the specifications that they need. So this is open power in action, changing the way we've implemented power systems. And storage. For me, it's all about software defined and how we're moving this to be really flexible. And I'll give you an example of this. Because in a cloud context, it's really unpredictable how much I'm going to need and where I'm going to need it. And I can't just say I'll provision everything just in case. It's unaffordable. So I've got to be very nimble in deployment. And the right way we've seen to do this is through software. Software is way more nimble than hardware. So I want to be able to provision and decommission whatever I need, whenever I need, and that requires software-defined storage. So those are several examples from the portfolio of why that matters. Now, I want to give you a couple of customer examples, and some of you may know AXA. They're number 16 in the Fortune 500. This happens to be an example from Belgium. Their subsidiary there in Belgium wanted to really improve their online underwriting experience. Their example of hybrid is about pure application, pure app. You see the demo over here. They initially tried it on SoftLayer. They liked it. They bought a pure app appliance that they use. But they also have the need to be able to scale this thing whenever they need. And for that, they can use a combination of their on-prem pure app and pure app service running on SoftLayer. They've got the best of both worlds, and they're avoiding having to dedicate the cost of doing that and only use it when they need it. So they've got the benefits of both, and they're using the same consistent technology in both cases. They're using patterns, as many of you are, to really try to get that consistency of the way they do deployments. They're also using rules. They've got their back-end system, so their online underwriting lands on system that implements 4,000 different rules. And they can change those very quickly. So they're very agile with their use of the technology. Another example we have is Elevations Credit Union, which is one that exists in Colorado. And they were looking for a dramatically more agile experience. Their implementation of being able to write loans, in this case home equity loans, they saw a dramatic reduction using BlueWorks Live in a cloud. So they were able to use this as a service to change the way they write loans. Good example of saving money, saving time, and being able to increase the number of loans they're able to write with no increase in staff. Now, I'd like to introduce a customer. Instead of me telling you the story, I'd love to have Ron join me on stage and tell the story of Radix. Ron is the CEO of Radix and has been there for quite some time. I will tell you, Ron is infamous or famous for back in the 80s, yes, running an insurance company, throwing out the mainframe. Why would I invite a guy who threw out the mainframe on stage with me? I must be crazy. Am I crazy?
No.
All right, Ron, welcome.
Great to
Over
see
to you,
Tom. Yeah, no, actually, I go back to the days when 64K was delivered by truck. Okay, so, and at that point, we were replacing local area mainframes with local area servers. That was a different world. And actually, up until about probably 6 months ago, I really felt that the whole direction for us, and we have about a 400 server farm, was going to be just the cloud and maybe some private, private cloud maintained. We now have a mainframe. It's beautiful. And I think probably the best illustration as to why we might do that goes back to something that happened in 1932. October 1st, 1932. Any baseball fans here? Critical date. Okay, that was the third game of the World Series between the New York Yankees and the Chicago Cubs, played at Wrigley Field. Third inning, Babe Ruth walks to the plate and he points to the central field, or the center field bleachers. And then the very next pitch, he swings, he connects, and hits a home run into the center field bleachers. That's execution. And he was able to execute because he had all the tools. He had the power, he had the vision, he had the timing, he had everything. And what you get as you get older is perspective. There are a lot of other things you lose, but you get perspective, okay? And what I can tell you is that I have learned that if the only tool someone has is a hammer, then all problems are a nail. And a lot of the people in this industry have cloud-only solutions. And when you really get down to what you need to do, certainly for us, what we needed to do, we recognized that the mainframe really fulfilled a tremendous amount of what we did better than if we had moved that portion of our IT to the cloud. And so for us, we have come to the conclusion that a hybrid cloud with a combination of our Z system and soft layer is our best solution. Now, a little bit about Radix. We're a software as a service hosting company, and we provide the core for most airlines, which is their airline reservation system. We're not well known in the US. Most of our clients are overseas. We have about 40 airlines. They're in Africa, they're in the Middle East, they're in Asia. And one of the constants with airlines in the developing world is that those are cash societies. And there's a different set of challenges. How do you book online and then shove a few dollar bills or a few rupees into the screen? And so we had to come up over the last 20 years with ways of collecting money, but letting people book online. And so a travel agent in Nigeria, you probably wouldn't give credit to a travel agency in Nigeria, okay? A travel agent in Nigeria will go and deposit maybe the equivalent of $10,000 in Nigerian naira into a local bank. It immediately notifies our system, and then at that point, they can go ahead and book against that open credit. And people can book online and then pay at the ATM. Book online, pay at the post office in India. Book online, and there's any number of different ways. We actually have approximately 90,000 travel agents that connect directly into our system and bypass all of the traditional third parties that other airline systems have to deal with. But we support both of the major models, the traditional model and the newer low-cost direct sell model. In our mind, all channels are valid channels of sale. They just have different rules. And we also see that if our system is down, the cost to the airlines is phenomenal. Our largest carrier, it costs about $1,000, I'm sorry, not $1,000, about $1 million to be down for an hour. That's pretty tough. And we have SLAs, we have to have reliability, we have to have a system that basically doesn't go down. Currently, we're running on a 400, or have been running on a 400 server farm, our own private cloud. We have an IBM Z, and it is a beautiful thing. And it's incredible what you can do in that environment. So we have a Radix hybrid cloud now, where the database, all the big data type apps, the data warehouse, MQ, API back, the payment processing, have all been moved to the mainframe. So 172 cores on the servers, moving to 10 cores on the Z. And then we have an IBM flash system, V840. So all data is stored on flash. The systems of engagement, the client-facing IBE, the travel agency portals, a variety of other things now are being moved to the cloud. Some there already, but being moved to the cloud. We believe that this is an architecture that gives us the best of all worlds. And I'll share with you some of the reasons that we have moved. First of all, what we have seen over the past few years is a massive increase in what the industry calls the look-to-book ratio. How many times somebody looks, gets availability, compared to how many times somebody actually books. Now, it used to be, when there were just call centers, it would be 3 or 4 phone calls to one booking. And then a few years back, it might be 100 to 1, when you first had just the internet booking engines out there. But now we have online travel agencies that tie directly into us. We have feeds coming from everywhere. We have mobile. Mobile is unconstrained. It used to be somebody had to go to a computer and physically be in front of a computer in order to make a booking. Now somebody can be standing in line at Walmart and they make a booking or they check in or whatever. Plus with the online travel agents, there is nothing to limit their access. If they want to refresh their caches 1,000 times a day, they will do it. These are all high I/O applications. And the mainframe excels at high I/O. It is an I/O engine. When we were replacing mainframes with servers, the most critical item was to make sure that the application did not have the requirement of massive I/O. Because if it did, it needed to be on the mainframe. Well, what's happened? The wide area has gone from 128 kilobit per second to, name it, a universe full of data coming in through the pipes attached to your data center or into the cloud. Constant growth. We're seeing organic growth year over year for our clients, at least 25% of existing clients, and then we're adding other clients. But we see these sudden, huge demand peaks. We had one airline in India that gave away 1 million free seats. All of India logged in the next 45 minutes. Okay, and so in the span of a couple of hours, we had 70 million availability requests for 85,000 bookings. Now that was 5 years ago. Since then, we have online travel agents and mobile, and now when we see the sales, it's unbelievable. And so we need the elasticity that comes both within the mainframe where we have the dynamic reallocation of resources, and then also within the cloud. And so it works extraordinarily well. The reliability, second thing. In our large server farm, every time we added a few more servers, the likelihood was there were slight differences between those servers and all previous servers because manufacturers continue to enhance their products, and you typically have a 3-year lifespan for the products. There were going to be patches, more patches now to be concerned about because you had more machines. Then you had to plug in wires. Somebody had to run the wiring. And of course, you've got all of the other intermediary components, the routers, the bridges, and so on. And virtually every one of them getting patched periodically, usually security patches. And you have to make the decision, do I patch this or not? Do I take the risk of that particular security problem, or do I take the risk that the patch is going to introduce other new problems? On the Z, boy, the whole process is simplified tremendously. Upgrade in place, hot swap, it's phenomenal. And it's not my worry as far as interconnecting everything inside the box. Much easier to grow, manage, monitor that IBM Z, and likewise the soft layer cloud. Much easier certainly than a multi-vendor server farm. And everything is redundant. I love that. I love that, that without all the work on our end, everything is redundant. It also eliminates the problem of the weakest link failing. You know, things change over time, and a 2-year-old component may have been the best in the world at that time, and now it's the weakest link in your system. This solves that problem. I like the fact that IBM monitors the system, and that if there is an issue, a redundant path is selected, IBM is notified, and they send somebody out to replace a component without taking the system down. 0 downtime for upgrades and maintenance. Boy, that is very refreshing. I had hair years ago, and all of these unexpected downtimes over the years, actually the reality is we've been able to maintain phenomenal reliability in our system. If you Google Radix and add the word outage, you'll find absolutely no articles, nothing on Google. If you take any one of our competitors, and you will find page after page after page after page. There's been a huge amount of effort to maintain that level of reliability. Security is the big problem that I think everyone faces. For us, we deal with passport information, credit card information, very sensitive information, and unlike most of our competitors, we keep all data online at all times. Traditional systems will purge the online data within a few days after you fly the last leg of your itinerary. Our business design, the model of our system is really with the concept that airlines are becoming Amazon.com as an airline, selling virtually anything, and with the need to maintain the information about their clients online. The statistic is that roughly 1/3 of all of the things that somebody buys from Amazon were not things that they logged in to buy. Okay, and so the whole approach of offer management, which requires massive analytics, is coming to an airline near you. Right, and so for us, we've sought to design our system to really be prepared for that, actually to do it. We're seeing a massive increase in hacking attempts. Screen scraping robots in our industry are unbelievable. In fact, it is the business model for many of the startups in the industry. They're going to cull their data from screen scraping on our machines. And we see this all the time. And the distributed denial of service, just in the last 3 months, we've seen 3 major attacks. Okay, and so with SoftLayer, obviously you get a massive and a very scalable defense. But what I really like when you combine it with the mainframe is you get a dual perimeter defense of your data. If you have everything in the cloud, you have a single wall of defense. But as soon as you add in the mainframe, you have a second perimeter defense. Somebody has to break through more to get to you. Now, the reality is that x86 servers get hacked more than anything else. Mainframes almost never get hacked. The reason is simple. The average hacker hacks what he knows, or she knows, and they typically don't have a spare mainframe in the basement. But they might have 50 servers that they're playing around with and different OSs and everything else. And so I want my data as secure as possible. Plus, a mainframe is a closed environment. Everything provided by a single vendor. There are so many opportunities when you have multiple servers and multiple components to hack. Now, the benefits that I see of a hybrid cloud, there are a few others. There's greater clarity, specifically in the IBM SoftLayer cloud. Typical application for us is one of our airlines is GoAir, based in India. Fairly good-sized carrier, started up about 6-7 years ago. The IBM SoftLayer cloud lets us then have the option of locating our systems of engagement for them, local to them, but then connect into a point of presence that's in Miami, close to us. And so we have a controllable performance that when we're dealing with an SLA is much more comforting. And the ability really pretty much to have it whatever way we want. Plus, I have to tell you, the service that IBM provides and someone coming in, multiple people coming in to assist us in architecting things has great value. Net impact is a lower total cost of ownership. Overall, right now we see on a 3-year horizon, it's about 35% that we are saving with this hybrid approach. I strongly recommend it, and I'll be more than happy to chat with anybody afterwards.
Congratulations on the Fly Dubai renewal. That's a great story. Anybody been to Nigeria? We talk about Nigeria. If you try to use a credit card there, you cannot. It is a cash society. Your credit card will be denied. I had to go there with a boatloads of cash in order to buy things there. It's really safe to walk around with a boatload of cash. I heard another word that I wanted to write down that I've heard several times this morning, and for me, it was partnership. This is not about just buying something from somebody. This is about us being there with you. You know, the story that we just heard, it's about partnership. I heard it this morning from some of the speakers, some of the clients talking about what was the key reason they went with us. It was about partnership. So we'll be there for you. I do still have a couple slides if we could go back to mine. Let's hope. All right, yes. So last story for me on a client is one about UPMC. We're all very focused on the cost of healthcare, and we're all focused on reducing the cost of healthcare. Well, no one more than UPMC. They've been a client of ours for years. I've helped them avoid data center build-outs, helped save $70 million by not having to build out another data center through heavy virtualization and taking advantage of virtualization to get their capacity way up, their utilization of their capacity way up. Now, and they're still doing that. They're still running mainframes, they're still running power, but now it's all about the data. As we've seen, the volume of electronic medical records really just blows the charts away. And we've just begun. This is pre-genomic data. This is just EMRs today and what they're storing. They were looking at how to avoid spending just lots and lots of money with storage. And they have been able to go now for 15 months without buying any more, much to my chagrin, but they're very happy because they're avoiding having to buy more spinning disk. Now, how are they doing that? Software-defined storage. Because of their use of software-defined storage in their cloud environment, they are able to store their data much more compressed. And compression for them was the key. When they can compress the data, they can just use a lot less spinning disk. So really key for me is to help them keep avoiding this cost and keeping our healthcare down, at least at UPMC. And in the interest of time, I'm going to wrap up just by saying that hopefully what you've seen is a consistent story from us, from our clients, from our partners around partnership, around hybrid, and just remember as you're going home tonight or tomorrow that underneath it all, it's still running on something, and you want that something to be rock solid. So infrastructure, as Jim said, I'll quote you now, infrastructure matters. Thank you all. Back to Dave.
All right. Okay, thanks.